The veteran South African award-winning news journalist Joseph Oisi's controversial documentary Black Lives Matter is set to make its way to Canada for the 2017 Montreal International Black Film Festival. Now, the film received some backlash, when it was released last year, for its depiction of the current state of affairs for tens of thousands of miners and mine workers working and living in abysmal conditions across South Africa. And to share this exciting news with us, we are joined by the film's director, Joseph Oisi. A very good morning to you, Joseph. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Let's first start with when you got that phone call that your documentary has made it to the Montreal International Film Festival. How did you receive the news?
No, I mean, it was very exciting indeed because, the film is relatively still new and it seems to be having much more of an international audience than the local one. But no, we're very, very excited indeed about this, yeah.
Yeah. What does it tell you about the interest that the international community and the international film space have on South African productions?
No, South Africa is still a relatively new country in terms of democracy and so forth. So everybody's keeping an eye on this baby to see how it grows and how it forms. And remember, the international community was very much involved in where we are today in terms of this new democracy that we're still trying to nurture. And I think that people are very interested to see how does South Africa turn out, and as an example on the African continent.
Yeah. It's also been nominated in the Best Documentary Feature category. And what would it personally mean to you should you win, and of course with the actors?
No, there are no actors. It's a straight documentary with real people involved in real lives. I think it's not just an accolade to myself, but also to the South African industry, to the people that I worked with, the team that was with me. I mean, we worked damn hard for like 4 or 5 years to make this documentary. Because I started following the story of the miners, well, not really the miners, but the communities around where Lonmin is mining, and I was in Marikana. So we followed that community, and I was trying to sort of examine what happened there, what was really happening, the bigger story. And, I sort of realized later that actually there are more Marikanas that may happen.
Okay, so and what exactly did you find so appalling about the conditions that mine workers live in?
South Africa hasn't really moved from its past, and what is really appalling is to know that people are still living in abysmal conditions, that life for the most part of our people under our regime, so to speak, are still the same. So this is what we sort of found on the ground, that poverty is reigning. There is a lack of human rights in a sense, because the people do not have access to the minerals, they do not have access to the land. There's a lot of fighting in terms of communities, the mining companies, and there's an insidious relationship with our ruling elite at the same time. Yeah.
The issue of mine workers in South Africa is quite problematic, and particularly the Marikana tragedy. What prompted you to catch the bull by its horns and tackle this issue head on?
Well, as I said, the fact that the situation has not changed, and you look further down the line of 20 years, 25 years plus, or whatever, since democracy, and you wonder, was this really what happened? Was this what we signed up for? What was the agreements, that were had, and who's benefiting from all of this? And that's what we're looking at. We're doing a trilogy of films looking at South Africa's, not just South Africa, but Africa's mineral resources, and trying to understand who is benefiting today. And unfortunately, what we seem to be coming up with is that nothing much has changed since perhaps maybe the 1700s.
That is so sad, actually. Yeah. Now, The film was released last year in Durban, and it faced some serious criticism and backlash. Are you expecting the same kind of backlash and fierce criticism in Canada?
Look, we are going to a country where one of the companies that is cited in our film, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. We'll be basically in their turf, in their backyard. And the thing that we were trying to do and to show is that since apartheid and prior to apartheid, nothing much has changed, and that foreign companies are continuing to sort of loot not only South Africa but the African continent, and we would like to see that change. And hopefully this will be a message to the shareholders and people in Canada that, look, this is really unacceptable for this to be happening in this day and age.
Yeah. You know, the South African film industry has come a very long way, and I think at this point it's headed in the right direction. So what does it personally mean to you for our own productions to be screened or to be exposed to international platforms?
No, it's absolutely great, and I think that it shows that we are up there with the best in the world. And what I discovered is that we're actually going to be by 5 South African films showing at the Montreal Film Festival. There's also the Toronto Film Festival where there's a couple of South African films there. My only desire and wish is that South African documentaries should start also making it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Joseph Oesi. Great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. That is Joseph Oesi. He's an award-winning veteran South African news journalist, and he's been speaking to us about the inclusion of his controversial documentary Black Lives Matter at this year's Montreal International Black Film Festival. All right, we'll take a coffee break. We'll be right back.